What if I told you the door you cried over, the door you stopped praying about, the door you thought was permanently shut is opening again? Not someday, not one day, but sooner than you think. Listen carefully, because this message is not for everyone. It's for the person who did everything right and still watched it fall apart. The person who whispered, "God, did I miss my chance?" The one who pretended to move on, but deep down still wondered why it had to end like that. You didn't imagine the resistance. You weren't wrong for feeling the loss. And you are not being punished. What you thought was rejection was actually protection. What looked like a dead end was divine delay. And what felt final was only temporary. Right now, God is confirming something in your spirit that your mind almost gave up on. The silence wasn't absence. The delay wasn't denial. While you were waiting, something was being rearranged: people, timing, circumstances, all aligning for a version of the blessing you couldn't have handled before. And here's the part most people don't realize. Doors don't reopen the same way they closed. They reopen with clarity, peace, and authority. This time, you're not walking in desperate, you're walking in prepared. If you've been seeing signs, feeling a strange calm after chaos, or sensing that something is about to change, this is your confirmation. Don't skip this video, because by the end, you'll understand why it had to close first and what you must do when it opens again. If this message speaks to you, comment, "I'm ready for the open door." Like this video to claim alignment. Share it with someone who's still waiting. And subscribe, because this isn't the last confirmation God is sending you. Red heart. There's a particular kind of pain that doesn't come from failing, but from finality. Failure still carries movement. You tried, you fell, you learned something, and somewhere deep down you believe you could try again. Finality feels different. Finality feels like silence after you poured your heart out. It feels like standing in front of a door that once felt warm and familiar, only to discover it will not open no matter how gently or desperately you knock. What makes closed doors hurt so deeply is not always what you lost, but what you never received. No explanation, no conversation, no closure, just quiet, just the echo of what could have been. In modern life, this kind of pain shows up everywhere. It shows up when someone you talk to every day suddenly disappears without a word, leaving you to replay every message and moment, wondering what you did wrong. It shows up in that rejection email that thanks you for your interest but offers nothing more. No feedback, no clarity, no human warmth. It shows up when an opportunity you work toward quietly vanishes, when the call never comes, when the promise dissolves without an apology. These experiences don't just disappoint us, they unsettle us. They make us question our worth, our timing, even our identity. And the hardest part is that the door doesn't slam loudly. It closes softly, leaving you unsure whether it's truly closed or if you just didn't push hard enough. Spiritually, this is where many people struggle the most. We assume that a closed door means rejection, punishment, or abandonment. We assume that if something didn't work out, it must be because we weren't good enough or faithful enough or smart enough. But there is a deeper truth that often goes unnoticed. A door can look closed to you while being locked only from your side. What you interpret as God shutting something down may actually be God waiting for you to release your grip. Not because He wants to hurt you, but because He wants to reposition you. God doesn't close doors to punish. He closes doors to redirect, to protect, to move you towards something that matches who you are becoming, not who you were when you first knocked. This is where understanding the difference between delay and denial can completely change how you see your life. Delay feels frustrating because it looks like nothing is happening. You prayed, you prepared, you showed up, and still the door didn't open when you expected it to. Denial feels harsher because it feels final, like the answer is no forever. But delay is often preparation in disguise. It is time being used intentionally to shape your character, to strengthen your discernment, to align your timing with something bigger than your impatience. Denial, on the other hand, is often protection. It is God seeing what you cannot yet see and refusing to let you walk into something that would cost you more than it would give you. There are blessings that look good on the surface but would collapse you under their weight if they came too early. There are opportunities that feel like breakthroughs but would expose weaknesses you haven't yet developed the wisdom to manage. God delays not because He is distant, but because He is detailed. He cares about who you become in the process, not just what you receive at the end. Timing alignment matters more than speed, even when everything in our culture tells us otherwise. If you've ever watched someone get a promotion they weren't ready for, you've seen this principle play out in real life. From the outside, it looks like success. Inside, it feels like pressure, anxiety, and constant fear of being exposed. Many people in the United States know what it's like to chase the next level, the bigger title, the higher income, only to realize later that the cost was peace, family, or health. The door didn't open for you then because you weren't being overlooked. You were being spared. The same is true in relationships. Some connections feel intense, magnetic, almost destined. When they end abruptly or never fully begin, the pain can be overwhelming. But with time and perspective, you sometimes realize that relationship would have slowly eroded your self-respect or pulled you away from who you were meant to become. What felt like rejection was actually rescue. God didn't delay love to be cruel. He delayed it to preserve your peace. Even financial blessings follow this pattern. Money magnifies what already exists. Without discipline, clarity, and emotional maturity, an early financial breakthrough can create chaos instead of freedom. Many people who come into money before they develop wisdom end up more stressed, more isolated, and more broken than before. Delay in this area is not denial of abundance. It is preparation for stewardship. At some point, everyone has a door they replay in their mind. A conversation that never happened. A chance they wish they had taken differently. A version of life they still visit in quiet moments. It's human to wonder what would have happened if that door had opened. But the question worth sitting with is not why it closed, but who you were becoming while it remained shut. Because here's the part most people don't talk about. Closed doors don't always stay closed. Some doors close to change your posture, not your destination. And when a door begins to open again, it rarely announces itself with fireworks. The first sign is often internal, not external. You notice that the frustration you once carried has softened into peace. The anger has lessened. The obsession has loosened its grip. You're no longer forcing answers or chasing closure. You're breathing again. That peace is not indifference, it's alignment. Then sometimes quietly, opportunities that look familiar begin to resurface, but they feel different now. What once felt overwhelming now feels manageable. What once intimidated you now feels achievable. People from your past may reappear, not always to stay, but to bring clarity, healing, or confirmation of how much you've grown. Old resistance that once felt immovable suddenly lifts, as if something unseen has shifted behind the scenes. Perhaps the most powerful sign is the return of inner confidence. Not arrogance, not urgency, but a calm assurance that you don't need to chase what is meant for you. You trust your timing more. You trust God's direction more. You trust yourself more. You're no longer knocking in desperation. You're standing with readiness. God doesn't reopen doors loudly. He does it precisely. He waits until your hands are strong enough to hold what's on the other side and your heart is wise enough not to idolize it. And when that door opens, you realize it didn't open because you forced it. It opened because you were finally prepared to walk through it without losing yourself. What once felt like the pain of finality reveals itself as a season of formation. Silence becomes instruction. Lack of explanation becomes an invitation to trust. No closure becomes deeper faith. And you begin to see that some doors didn't close to end your story. They closed to change its direction, to move you closer to the life you were always meant to live. Red heart. Sometimes a door has to close not because you failed, but because you are still becoming. There is a spiritual principle that is uncomfortable but necessary to understand. Growth often requires removal. Just like a gardener prunes a healthy branch, not a dead one, God allows certain things to end precisely because they mattered. Pruning is not destruction. It is intentional cutting so that future growth can be stronger, cleaner, and more sustainable. When something closes in your life, it doesn't automatically mean it was wrong. It often means it was right for a season, but not for the future version of you that was forming. Refinement works the same way. No one enjoys refinement because it feels like pressure, loss, and confusion all at once. Yet refinement is where impurities are exposed and burned away. Habits you relied on, mindsets that once protected you, even identities you wrapped yourself in to survive no longer fit where you're headed. Hidden lessons surface during these closed-door seasons. Patience you didn't know you lacked. Control issues you disguised as responsibility. Fear you labeled as realism. If the door had opened back then, you might have celebrated, but you would have mishandled what came through it. Not because you were careless, but because you were unprepared. There's a quiet truth many people only realize in hindsight. Timing doesn't just affect outcomes, it affects stewardship. Blessings arrive safely only when the hands receiving them are steady. If it had opened then, you might have rushed it, forced it, or built it on insecurity instead of wisdom. Sometimes the most loving thing God can do is say, "Not yet," even when everything in you is screaming now. There's a story that mirrors this reality, and it doesn't belong to any one religion or culture. It's about a person who spent years building a life that looked stable from the outside. A career, relationships, plans stacked neatly like bricks. Then almost all at once, everything fell apart. The job ended. The relationship dissolved. The identity they had wrapped themselves in vanished. For a long time, it felt like punishment, like they had been forgotten or abandoned. But in the quiet that followed the collapse, something unexpected happened. For the first time, they were forced to ask who they were without titles, without validation, without constant motion. Slowly, alignment replaced ambition. They discovered what they valued, not what impressed others. They learned how to listen instead of striving. And when life began to rebuild, it didn't look like the old structure. It looked truer. The opportunities that came later fit instead of strained. The relationships felt mutual instead of draining. What they lost wasn't taken to hurt them. It was cleared to make room for something honest. That alignment could never have arrived without the loss that came first. While all of this is happening on the surface, something else is happening behind the scenes. God doesn't work in a single straight line. He works in layers. While you're waiting, other people are being positioned. Systems are shifting. Doors you don't even see yet are being unlocked. Conversations are happening that involve your name, even when you feel invisible. Just because you can't see movement doesn't mean nothing is moving. This is difficult to accept in a culture that celebrates hustle above all else. In the American mindset, effort is everything. Grind harder, push longer, sleep less, make it happen. There's value in discipline and work, but divine timing operates differently. Hustle culture says if it's not happening, you're not doing enough. Faith says sometimes you're doing too much, gripping too tightly, forcing doors that require trust instead of pressure. Waiting doesn't mean wasted time. It means layered preparation. Behind the scenes, protection is happening. Outcomes are being safeguarded from premature exposure. You're being spared from shortcuts that would cost you later. God hasn't forgotten you. He's protecting the outcome, not just delivering it. There's a difference. Anyone can hand you something. Not everyone ensures you're able to keep it. When the door finally opens, your responsibility matters. Faith is not passive. It's active preparation. Discipline becomes essential, not as punishment, but as structure. Forgiveness becomes non-negotiable because carrying resentment into a new season will poison it. Letting go of old identities is crucial because who you were during survival cannot lead during abundance. You cannot walk into a new door dragging the emotional habits of the last closed one. This is where many people stumble. They pray for new opportunities but cling to old patterns. They step into fresh seasons with outdated mindsets. They expect different results while repeating familiar behaviors. Many reopened doors are missed not because God didn't open them, but because people brought old habits into new seasons and couldn't recognize what was in front of them. Growth requires awareness. Maturity requires release. There comes a moment when reassurance replaces striving. Not loud, not dramatic, but steady and calm. The door is opening because now you can handle it. Not because you begged enough. Not because you proved yourself, but because you've been shaped quietly, consistently, intentionally. This opening is not rushed. It's not forced. It's not random. It's aligned. If you're hearing this now, it's not by accident. Messages arrive when hearts are ready, not when lives are perfect. This moment found you on purpose, in the middle of your questions, not at the end of them. You don't need to panic. You don't need to chase. You don't need to recreate the past. You need to stay present, grounded, and open. Take a breath and allow a moment of stillness. Peace doesn't require you to understand everything. Trust doesn't demand answers first. Alignment begins when you stop resisting the pause and start respecting the process. If you choose, allow a quiet prayer to form, not bound by religion or performance. A prayer for peace where anxiety once lived. A prayer for trust where control once dominated. A prayer for alignment instead of urgency. Let it be simple. Let it be honest. And when you're ready, acknowledge it out loud or in your heart. You are ready for the open door. Share that readiness. Speak it. Write it. Let it move beyond thought into intention. Stay connected for what comes next, because confirmation often arrives in layers, not all at once. And if someone you know is waiting, share this with them. Sometimes faith grows faster when it's shared. Now allow a few seconds of silence. No words, no effort, just space. The door is opening. Walk through it with faith. Before you leave, pause for a moment, because this isn't just the end of a video. This is a turning point. If you're still here, it's because something resonated deep inside you. A quiet confirmation. A reminder you didn't know you needed. The door you thought was closed isn't opening by accident. It's opening because you are finally ready for what's on the other side. The waiting season didn't weaken you, it refined you. The silence didn't mean abandonment, it meant preparation. And the delay didn't cancel the promise, it protected it. What comes next will require courage, discernment, and trust. Not everyone will understand the new season you're stepping into, and that's okay. This door is opening for you, not for their approval. Walk through it without fear. Walk through it without looking back. Walk through it knowing that what's ahead is aligned, intentional, and overdue. If this message confirmed what you've been feeling, don't ignore it. Seal it. Comment, "I'm walking through the open door." Like this video to affirm your faith. Share it with someone who needs this reminder today. And subscribe, because your season is changing, and this is only the beginning.